What was strange 20 years ago, but is absolutely normal now, wearing a mask at least in the West in public. If I'm sick, I can wear a mask in public and no one really bats an eye. I remember being nervous about doing that at the start of the pandemic because it was socially awkward, but now it's not. Okay, so I guess this was only 4 years ago, but still, phones being a worthwhile gaming platform. The closest one is probably the Nokia N-Gage with some GBA library, but for the most part it was written that Taco phone is a flop. Nowadays you can run PS3 quality games on your smartphone no problem, casually walking around with devices we use constantly that are at all times running surveillance on us for one purpose or another. And before I get dogpiled with labels, downvotes and abuse, I'm referring primarily to advertisers texting instead of calling. Back in '03 a lot of folks still had T9 phones, so it was easier to make plans through a quick call. Today, every time I get a phone call from a friend or family member I assume someone has died, publicly proclaiming you are a racist or want a certain segment of the population to be murdered. It was much more hushed back then. Not sure one is better than the other besides being able to easily determine who to avoid. Selfie sticks. I still remember the forever lone face memes about this one lady on the stairs who tied her camera to a broom or whatever that was. The whole internet made fun of her, posting every intimate detail and skeleton in your closet online for everyone to see. Then getting upset that everyone is all up in your business. And posting that online too, talking on the phone through a headset in public. Now if you see someone talking and gesticulating to an invisible entity, we just assume they're probably on the phone, jerking off to something on your phone. Are you jerking off to Tetris? A gray screen with numbers on it? This is 2003. What on this Nokia is making you that horny? Internet dating. It used to be considered very desperate and only for losers. Now, most people don't even know how to go about dating traditionally. It's funny because how many people are thinking of 1983 instead 2003? The answers would have been different if they were actually thinking of 2003. Being in your phone all the time, people were somehow, somewhat friendly back then. Then boom, phones, social media, and now we can get a bit. I remember when my mom first signed us up for whatever Comcast package it was that had on-demand content, I nearly shit my pants. Chatting about the movie while you're at the movie. In a theater. Surrounded by other people who are trying to watch the movie. Sharing updates about your life constantly on social media. Back then, platforms like Facebook and Instagram didn't exist yet. Fucking monetization in games. I'm still blown away by how many single-player games have a paid skin store. What the fuck? Seeing someone walk down the street talking to themselves. Now you just assume they have a device even if you can't see it. No privacy. Blindly following and believing authority. Got to say, not everything in this brave new world is that great. Men beating women up. 20 years ago, nope. In 2023, claim you're a woman too and punch away in that octagon. To look after your phone battery you should let it go all the way down to 0 and then charge fully to 100. Online dating. It was seen as somewhat strange or unnatural. Now it's the most common way people meet. Taking massive amounts of pictures of yourself. This used to be a mental condition called narcissism, leaving the house to go someplace without having directions and figuring out on the way where to go. A lot of people who aren't old enough to have a good memory of what things were like in 2003. Showing your tits and ass to strangers on the internet is so normalized that it's downright scary. Posting your private life online. Being friends online with people you've never seen in person. Being non-binary or identifying as something other than the gender in your birth certificate. People talking on phones with Bluetooths. Appearance of talking to themselves in public. When I read the question I thought about the 80s, then I realized 20 years ago is 2003. 20 years ago was 2003. I instantly thought of 1993. Why? I wasn't even alive then. Walking around filming yourself while you're interacting and talking to people, not leaving the house. 20 years ago I was outside every free minute I had. You need to memorize this cause you won't have the info accessible later. Don't forget to print out your directions from MapQuest before you leave. Having a roommate of the opposite sex. Well, May 20th years is too short. Being an outspoken neo-Nazi. Would be cool for it to be strange again. Politicians screaming weird shit. Howard Dean then versus anyone now. Online dating was considered pretty weird for most of the 2000s. Getting in a car with a random stranger you met on the internet. Many cans of soda. Back then they would be considered a ripoff. People used to have more personal shame and were less trashy. Staring at a screen in public while people are talking to you. Meeting people online. there was still a stigma 20 years ago. Using a phone to call a stranger to pick you up, Uber or Lyft. Hybrid cars like the Toyota Prius, Honda Insight etc. Call the girl a dog you'd expect to slap, now it's a filter. Telling everybody what your political affiliation is. Not subscribing to a TV service, cable or satellite.